Hello, so in this video we'll cover what an ERC-20 token is. So as we know, there are multiple, well, let's call it blockchain technologies out there. So we know, for example, there's Bitcoin, which got its own network infrastructure. We've got Ethereum, which has got also its own infrastructure. But then with Tether, Tether does not have its own nodes or infrastructure. No, Tether is basically a smart contract, a so-called token on the Ethereum blockchain. So basically, this one belongs more or less to the Ethereum network. And we'll deep dive into what that exactly means. So let's start right here. So on the Ethereum page, you can see here that there are token definitions. So the most well-known standard is the ERC-20 standard. We can also see there's the ERC-721 standard for NFTs. And we can just go to that one here. So for everybody's a little bit tech savvy. It's basically so we can see here it's basically an interface, but it's telling you which functions have to be implemented. So every ERC-20 token has, for example, a name, a symbol, a function for decimals, a function for total supply, for example, function for balance off, and so on. So this is basically the base definition here. And now we will look at one well-known ERC-20 token, for example, Tether. So when you're on CoinMarketCap, you can just click on Tether here, then it opens, and then you can click on contracts, and you just left-click on the contract. That's being opened in Etherscan. So now we're on the page of the ERC-20 USDT token, so Tether token here. And we can see here all the metrics. So we can see how many accounts are holding the token. We can see the max total supply. We can see the transfers. We can also see what's currently happening here. So all the changes, for example, with BlockFi or any other, from Binance to another address and so on. We can also look a little bit more closely into the contract. So there are multiple properties we can look into. For example, name. The name is Tether, as we know, Tether USD. We can see, okay, is it so deprecated? We can see the supply, the up address, and so on. So we can also check all the data here out. For example, who's also the owner. We can also check out the owner of that contract. So that would be, as you can see here, it's Bitfinex. So, right, so we can see who created the token more or less. And so we can also see what the contract owner, for example, is doing more or less. So with doing I mean like which transactions the owner is doing here. Right. Exactly. And we also, for example, so what else is there then? Okay, now, own blockchain, Binance can own blockchain part, Doge the same, XOP, and then, for example, there's also use Dcoin. Again, this one is, for example, again, Ethereum smart contract. So again, it's an ERC-20 token, so implementing the standard here. And we can also see here again these same functions basically. I might have to take it back, I think. Wait a sec. So maybe read contract information. We can write the contract, but I seem to be mistaken. I would have to look at the official site again. So it's basically it's on ERC-20 token apparently, if I'm not wrong here. Oh, yes, it is. Yeah, my bad. No, it is definitely the Trinity token. I was just a little bit confused because I wasn't able to see all information, so they just changed the visibility modifiers apparently. Alright, so we've got also the USD token and so on. So one thing you have to always look out for whenever you invest into a project is you have to differentiate if it's a token or if it's in a complete blockchain. So its own blockchain which has its own network and own nodes and a certain type of validation mechanism. Or for example, well, let's take a very well-known token out there. So I didn't check out all of them. For example, Chainlink is also a smart contract, if I'm not mistaken exactly, but that's okay more or less. So Chainlink, they are basically offering data feeds to smart contracts, for example, for real randomness and stuff like that. So it didn't look that close into it, so I hope I'm not saying anything wrong here. But for example, a very well-known token, for example, Shiba Inu. So as we know here, it's nothing special more or less. It's basically just a Ethereum smart contract, and anybody can create one of those. So it's an ERC-20 token, as we can see here, and yeah, that's basically it. So it's nothing special more or less. It's just a token which has certain field set, and we could do the same. We just would have to implement it, so we can see the total supply, the decimals, and could check the balance and stuff like that. So the owner of that contract could, for example, so not right. So there's a burn address and so on. Okay, right. But that's the important part here. So whenever you research any kind of new project you think like which might have some potential, please always check out if it's really your own block, if it has its own network with your own blockchain, or if it's basically quote unquote a token. So it's not necessarily a bad thing that it is a token, but the thing here is that it's very easy to create something which is a token. So like I said, we could easily just create our own ERC-20 token, deploy it on the Ethereum chain, and then issue it, then add it to, for example, all the famous swapping websites like, for example, Uniswap or stuff like that. We can basically exchange any ERC-20 token for any other one. So meaning that it could be a little problematic because you can just create it and then it just needs some promoters, and yeah, it's all the well-known pump and dump schemes you do know to some extent. So please always consider that when you, like I said, tend to invest in a new project. To really understand what is this project actually, is it just a token or not? So, what are the downsides of ERC-20 tokens? So, the well-known downsides of ERC-20 tokens are obviously that the transfer fees are dependent on the Ethereum network. So, any state change, so any transaction being done on an ERC-20 token, will have high gas fees, which rely on the Ethereum network. Therefore, it's quite expensive. So that might be a downside of any ERC-20 token. So as you can see here, if for example would try to do a write command here and try to change something, so could have to connect here. But usually, well, let's quickly try that. But I don't have any ETH right now here, so that won't be possible. But the problem, like I said, is here that each write operations, if it is, for example, transferring tokens or changing something or anything, so all the state change transactions, they obviously need gas, and it's quite so. Usually, the gas fees of ETH are ridiculous, so that will also make it very impractical. For example, as you know, for example, if you want to say send Tether from one exchange to another, you usually are not too keen on doing that because you know how much you would pay. So if I, for example, would try to do that on Binance, how much would they charge? So I'm right now just checking it out. So let's have a quick peek here. So if we would, for example, try to transfer any ERC-20 token off from Binance, so we'll quickly look it up on my other screen here. So the current network fee is apparently awesome, just €8, so 10 US dollars. So they're charging 10 US dollars for doing that. So as you can see here, so this is a screenshot from our screen because I didn't want to show you my Binance here. But you can see here they are charging wonderful 10 US dollars for withdrawing for sending you Tether. And if we would do the same thing with USDC, we can also look it up quickly what Binance would be charging. So obviously Binance is charging more, so the network fee might be a little bit lower than that, but Binance is also charging additional money here. But we've got here the same for USDC, as we can see that here. And let's try it also with Shiba Inu. So why not? Because since it's also a ERC-20 token, so how much are they charging there? So, oh, great, even more. So that's even better. So the next thing here, they're charging here awesome, whatever, 13 euros, 15, 16 US dollars. So ridiculous high transfer fees. So Binance is also wanting from you an extra fee, but still, even without that, the ETH fee would still be ridiculously high. So I would have to look it up what the current gas fees would be, but they are usually very high, making them very impractical for sending multiple transactions of low value. So, right, these are the downsides of ERC-20 tokens. So, thanks for watching and see you in the next one.